Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm your host, the Yellow Brick Rabbit, and today we're going to be discussing Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to discuss why it's called Rotten Tomatoes, then we're going to look at what's on the site, and you can make your decisions as you see fit. This is basically my opinion. I haven't prepared a script, I haven't prepared anything, I haven't looked up things. I'm just going to go through this as I see it, and this site, and what it's for, and why people use it incorrectly. So I find this rather evident. It's not really a surprise to me. It comes straight to me when I see their name and what they do. It's very linked together and in your face. But then I studied these things, so I kind of already know about these movements and such. Movements. Are you saying that Rotten Tomatoes is political, Rabbit? Yes. Oh yes, Rotten Tomatoes is political. Oh, is Rotten Tomatoes political? That's what it is. What, you thought it was a review site? No, it's not a review site. That's not what the reviews are for. Sure, you can find reviews, and functionally, that's how it acts. That's what you use it for, most of you, apparently. This is what I keep hearing from people I would expect to know far better. But no, this is not a review site, people. I know that's how you're using it. I know functionally that's how it's generally used. And it's how they're making their money. But that is not actually what it was set up to do, and it's pretty obvious. So let's talk about oxytomath, because that's why they're called Rotten Tomatoes. They're called Rotten Tomatoes because of oxytomath. Now, what was oxytomath? Well, it was a student movement in the Netherlands during the modern art period, basically. And it had a few points. It was executed terribly, and it's probably the reason that you can't find any traditional artists in the world anymore, hardly. But that's aside the point. Let's just connect Rotten Tomatoes to oxytomath. This is why they're called Rotten Tomatoes. Because that's one of the things that oxytomath did. That's what oxytomath means. It means action tomato. Or tomato action, if you were to grammatically fix it when you translate it. Now, what they did were they were students in Amsterdam, primarily, I think. Art students. Who were sick of traditional and classical things, and so they disturbed performances and harassed people. Now, there are a few facets to what they were trying to achieve, or how they pushed their goals, regardless of them being whether you agree with them or not, whether you yeah, I'm gonna have to explain it. Shoot, I was hoping to just like kind of do this quickly and not go into the depths of it, but let's discuss it. So during during the occupation of the Netherlands in World War II, in order to work on stage or in any art, pretty much, you had to be part of the union. Otherwise, you could not work. Guess who set up that union? Yeah. So everyone who worked during that period was labeled with this affiliation, despite their politics. And when the art students later on, during the modern art movement, decided that that they were sick of traditionalists and sick of classical things, they decided that they would use that affiliation to their advantage. And so when what they were protesting on paper, or at least, functionally, was traditional things being in theaters, which is why the first one happened at a showing of a Shakespeare, The Tempest, I think it was The Tempest. And they pelted the actors with tomatoes and eggs. I think one time, at least, they set off a smoke bomb in the audience. So yeah, they were punishing the audience too. Yeah, the audience was at fault for the actors who were up on stage, and the actors were at fault for, wanting to eat while during occupied times. Now, some of those actors may have been associated and in league with that political mind thought, and I don't agree with that in any way whatsoever, but At the same time, I also don't agree with assaulting people. I don't agree with, harassing the crap out of people either. This is not the way to go about it. Whether I like a person or not, whether I like a person's politics or not. So you may hear some significantly familiar things in that with some things going on today. But that's not really what I want to talk about. So let's put that to the side. And point out one of the things good that came from the action. And the good thing that came from the action was the unpolitical motivated point. The point that the stuck-up, snobby, elitist in-circle of critics and producers and directors were their own little clique with their own little stuff that didn't fit with the audience that they were making stuff for. The general audience, the people, the masses, most individuals. It was just everyone who was allowed to be a critic and everyone who was allowed to be in the industry together, because everyone else wasn't allowed to be in. And so that is what this site is about. This site is about checking the health of the industry. What, you don't believe me? Well, that's a bad example. Let's go back. Let's go to the actual box office here. All right, let's open some stuff. So what is this statistic? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's useless. But first, we're going to discuss what it's supposed to be. And what it's supposed to be is a check that things are healthy in the industry. This is a healthy looking score because it's basically divided in between, roughly between these two. These are roughly the same. There's some difference, and this is in a healthy spot in the middle. Now, this is a cop-out. This should be a red flag to anyone, but we're not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about that in a second. So why would you put verified, reviewers on one side and audience score on the other? Well, because you're comparing it. You're checking whether this is healthy and informative for this. Otherwise, this is useless. This doesn't tell you whether it's a good movie or not. People don't agree on whether things are good movies or not. That's why this is a red flag. Critics' consensus? Critics shouldn't be agreeing on things. What are you talking about? That's the whole reason that we have critics and not just a single critic. If all critics would just agree on stuff, and then there's no point. And that's where this runs into the fallacy that people do. They pick up this and they use this to judge whether they think a movie is going to be good or not. That's not what this is. If you want to find out whether a movie is good or not, let's go and open this. Here we have blurbs. Blurbs, yeah. And on their own, these are already useless. Don't read these. You'll spoil the movie. I guarantee you somewhere in here, someone spoils the movie in some fashion. Even if it's in a minute fashion that you could probably guess anyway. You still don't want to know it. So what you can do on here is find, say, this dude, maybe, read something of his, of something you've already seen and see if you agree. And find a dude or a lady that gets you, at least in a genre, and use them in a genre to decide whether you think something is worth seeing or not. Go to their thing, and from then on, continue to stay at their site, or their page, whatever. Do not be swayed by this. This is meaningless for you, unless you are trying to find out whether the industry as a whole is healthy, because that's what this is about. Now, I say that assuming that it is working correctly. And it isn't. Because we've seen time and time again that the audience score is being manipulated. And it may be from Rotten Tomatoes. It's hard for them to deny a political agenda when they have that name. But maybe they don't. I mean, this place has been around for a long time. Who knows who runs it now? They run it as though people are going to use it to look up reviews. And they make it available for you. I don't have any beef with the people at Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not trying to call them out for anything. But many people are using this site incorrectly. Now, the audience score is meaningless. You have no... Bots is the only word I'm going to use, and whether or not bots are used is irrelevant. Bots can be used. Therefore, bots are used. End of story. It's not reliable. And if this number isn't reliable, then the comparison isn't reliable. And this, well, what is this exactly? Well, to get what is it? It's like a 3.5 or something, like what is it? This is here, this one's fresh. Positive review, but a positive review is like, if I remember correctly, I can't find it. It's written somewhere. You can find it. So to be rated fresh, I think you need a 3.5 out of 10 or something. Like, yeah, that counts as a fresh, like, percentile. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Now, on top of that, some of these out of 10 markings are not out of 10. They are calculated from the various things that I thought I had one of those open already. Anyway, the various things that other reviewers actually use. See, this guy gave it a B-, and this is what I was looking for. The 2 out of 4. Out of 4. Understand that means there is pretty much only one thing, unless you're counting 0 out of 4, which, I mean, can you think of a movie you're going to give 0 out of 4? No. So 1 out of 4 is literally the only grade that falls beneath 3.5 out of 10. Yeah. So this is meaningless. Now you could take the average rating underneath that. That's a little bit more meaningful. That probably gives a more accurate averaging of what the critics think about it. However, the average thought of a critic is irrelevant, because there is no critic's consensus. There's no such thing. They don't agree. One critic likes something, another critic likes something else. They gauge things differently. One is more visual and gives more points for camera use and color and things like this than another one will, who cares more about dialogue and story and emotion or whatever. They don't have equal gradings. They don't have the same criteria. So they aren't comparable. The only thing that, at least not for a grade, the only thing that this is useful for is to check whether it lines up with the audience and whether the industry as a whole is healthy. And once again, that's useless because this is not real. And I wish I had one that gave that example a little bit better. But they keep botting them up. So now they're not available anymore. So let's I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure everyone has seen the bots in whatever they wanted to see that was terrible and is getting good things. If not, YouTube is full of them. They're ton of things that have been remade and such that have been terrible, and they're all getting much better scores thanks to people who just now decided to open an account and have no pictures and nothing. And anyway, I'm sure you can find that stuff. That's pretty much what I wanted to say, is that stop using this as a film grade. It's not a film grade. It doesn't even have anything to do with the movie. It has to do with these people. It has to do with keeping these people in check and, well, seeing what these people want. But it's flawed because people abuse this with bots and other nonsense, and this is sort of an in-group that, you know, they decide who's going into this and who stays. And then they have things like this that's just a red flag to anyone who's like, what are you talking about? That's pretty much the wrap. Stop using it wrong, please. That was bad grammar. Stop using it incorrectly, please. So, Rabbit public service announcement over. Yes, this means more than you think. No, this means less than you think. And if you want a more reliable reviewer, just go to YouTube. It doesn't have to be me or some other site. It doesn't have to be YouTube. Go to whatever individual critic that you want. Read some of their stuff. First of all, find out whether you can read or listen to the person. If you can't stand the way they write, stop reading their reviews. But find an individual who rates movies according to something that you agree with. If you love awesome digital effects and stuff, then find someone who cares about digital effects in the movies and rates accordingly to that. So I hope this has been informative. I hope this has helped. I hope I hope you didn't need this. I hope you went through this going, Rabbit, we know this. I don't actually use it that way. Don't worry about it. Thank you. Fantastic. But apparently other people actually use this thing in the described silly manner. So yes, my public service announcement is over. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you've enjoyed, then please, follow the Yellow Brick Rabbit. Do all those things that you do for all the other YouTubers. And press all the little button thingies. And I'll catch you next time.